Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Please click on the subscribe button. Thank you. Today we are going to be talking about a plane crash that occurred in Brazil. Now this plane crash was involving the souls of 61 passengers, passengers. Now this is so terrifying. This is so heartbreaking. The souls of these 61 passengers were all gone. You know, this plane crash took place.
Tonight, disturbing video captures a large passenger plane carrying at least 61 people as it crashes, killing everyone on board. That flight was Vopas Flight 2283, rapidly descending in a flat spin in its final seconds. I know that can be tough to watch. I want to show you where the plane landed. In a highly populated area. This is, of course, right outside of people's homes. My colleague Isa Suarez is out front.
These are the final moments of Brazilian Vopas Flight 2283. As the plane and the 61 souls on board spiral to their fiery end, crashing into a residential area in the outskirts of São Paulo.
When I heard the sound of the plane falling, I looked out my window at home and saw the moment it crashed. The way it fell, I ran out of the house and went to see where it had fallen, and saw it had fallen into the house of a couple of elderly people.
I heard a very loud noise very close to me. I thought it was a drone. I looked up to the sky and saw the plane spinning. In my head, in a matter of seconds, I didn't realize that it wasn't the normal movement of a plane, and I just had time to duck.
Flight 2283, a twin-engine turboprop, departed from the city of Cascavel, bound for Guarulhos International Airport in São Paulo, when its signal was lost shortly before 1:30 p.m. local time, according to Flight Radar 24 data. The plane dropped around 17,000 feet in the space of a minute. One man who missed the flight told Brazilian news outlet Globo that at least 10 people were waiting at the wrong gate and missed the flight before it took off.
They said to me, "Mister, you're not getting on this plane because we're already past the boarding limit." I even pressured them a little. My legs are shaking. Only God knows how I'm feeling.
In a statement, the airline Vopas said it had no confirmation of how the accident occurred, saying it was supporting those involved. While ATR, the plane's manufacturer, said it was fully engaged to support both the investigation and the customer. Authorities have located the black box flight recorder and are hoping it will provide some much-needed answers. Brazil's president, who was attending a naval event when hearing the news, held a moment of silence.
I would like everyone to stand up so that we can observe a minute of silence because a plane has just crashed in the city of Venedo in Sao Paulo.
And Erica, in the last 20 minutes or so, President Lula has declared 3 days of national mourning in memory of those 61 victims, really, that lost their lives in the most terrifying of ways, as you can see, as we have shown our viewers. We've also heard from authorities in the state of São Paulo on the ground. We understand the medical teams are on the ground. And in the last few minutes, authorities have been able to move 3 bodies from the wreckage to the state of São Paulo, but identifying them has been particularly hard. Erica?
That is so tough. Isa, appreciate it. Thank you. Joining us now, CNN transportation analyst Mary Schiavo, former Inspector General for the U.S. Department of Transportation, and former ATR pilot Stephen Frederick. He's also the author of Unheeded Warning, the inside story of American Eagle Flight 4184. That flight involved the same type of plane that was involved in this crash in Brazil. So, Steve, I want to begin with you here. You flew this type of plane, this ATR plane, for a number of years. Based on what we know in terms of information at this hour and what you know about this aircraft, do you have any thoughts what you think may have happened?
Well, the investigation, Erica, is going to give us a lot more data once we get the cockpit voice recorder and the digital flight data recorder. back to DC and downloaded. However, there was reported severe icing in the area. The aircraft wing obviously was in a full stall condition. The flat spin occurred, and the pilots had probably very little, if any, chance of recovering the aircraft. The ATR has long been problematic in icing conditions, and had this crew entered severe icing conditions or seen icing conditions on it that they've judged as severe, the procedure would have been to turn off the autopilot, exit the area as fast as possible. The biggest problem is you become a test pilot once you enter severe icing conditions, and these folks may not have even had an instant to react before the airplane went out of control.
Wow. When we look at this, the flight was at Mary at around 17,000 feet, as we understand it, when something went wrong. There were, I guess, about 8 minutes from that moment to landing. They were so low to the ground there. We saw it in that flat spin. I know there was some variation in the flight pattern. As you're looking at that, as you're looking at the video, Mary, what are you looking for in both the information that we have and the pictures that we have in this moment?
Well, actually, there are an awful lot of clues that come out just from that video and from the information that we know. And of course, you mentioned the SIGMENT, the weather warning, but you can see that it is falling dramatically. I also looked at the radar tracings, and there was one small porpoise, meaning the aircraft went down and up, and then it went straight down. So it was a significant aerodynamic stall event. I agree that there was no or little chance to recover this aircraft once this happened, because the aerodynamic stall means that you don't have significant or sufficient airflow over your wings to continue flight. It can be due to a lot of things. There's also a sound associated with that. Now, we don't know if it's this aircraft or others in the vicinity, but it appears both engines were still running, and that would give us a clue that maybe it was something other than engine failure. There's also another crash like this. I always look at prior accidents and other things that similar cases that I've worked on. And there wasn't one in Nepal where the pilot, instead of putting on the flaps, the co-pilot actually, instead of putting on the flaps, feathered the propeller, and that means change the way the blades orient towards the flight. And that caused the engines not to produce enough power, and the pilots actually thought they had engine failure, which they did not. So there are a couple things that you could look at that are very, very similar to this. On that crash, that was in Nepal in January 2023, the stall pattern and how the plane fell from the sky looked very similar. But if you look at pure old statistics and what caused the prior crashes, and I've looked at about 18 or so of them, usually it's weather, and often the stall is related to icing, including a significant one in the U.S., where the United States said these aircraft need much better, more robust de-icing equipment.
And so to that point, Steve, as I mentioned in your introduction, you wrote about a flight that went down in 1994, same type of plane. I believe there were 68 people on board that flight. And you were suspended for questioning the safety of that plane. 30 years later, those planes are still being flown in other areas. Do you think it's a problem?
I do think it's a problem. The ATR never really fixed the situation that developed, and there's been 19 losses of life on ATR crashes, 19 crashes in since 2000 to today's crash. We all knew 4184 was coming back in October of 1994, and we just knew that it was going to be an ice-related situation. The problem was they didn't fix the problem with the airplane. The aerodynamics still remain the same. They made a couple of minor changes to the de-icing system, but in my opinion, it wasn't enough. And there's just been too many crashes, too many loss of controls where the airplane is eventually recovered by the crew. In fact, I had one prior to 4184, and nobody would listen to me until people died. So unfortunately, that's how things get fixed, people die, and that it's just another tragedy.
Yeah. Steve, Mary, really appreciate both of you joining me tonight. Your insight, your expertise are invaluable here. Thank you.